Well, you did like the first domino, dude. So like once you bounced, then I was like, all right, let's got to plan the exit. And so
Went downhill.
waited. Yeah, no, dude, it went. I don't know. We should probably get this on the podcast, dude, because I don't think you
Okay.
know of the story.
I don't
But
know anything. That's why I was so excited to catch up.
oh my god, oh my god, there's so much, dude. Oh, you don't even know.
I don't know anything.
Okay, let me just freaking start this thing.
Okay.
So, hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the More Than the Numbers podcast. This is a show where we'll dive into the stories of people overcoming financial insecurity, showing the different paths that people take to become wealthy, and overall just how to live a more purposeful life. So, if you enjoyed listening to the show, please show some support. Give us a 5-star review and leave a comment of your favorite part of the pod. Also, please share it to anyone that you know that feels stuck and that needs some uplifting or needs some help to get their finances in order. We're really just trying to help as many people as we can with these stories. God bless all of you, and yeah, just enjoy the show. So today on the More Than the Numbers podcast, I have my old coworker and manager. She served as an inspiration to me in my mortgage career, and she's amazingly gifted in the art of sales and business, but is an even better person. Morgan Thomas, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks, Kenny. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. That was the sweetest intro ever.
That's why I needed those extra 2 minutes, dude. I'm like, I gotta.
Did you
I
just
had
write that real quick?
I had little bullet points, and I'm like, I need to like make this thing like formal. I got to do it
No,
big. I don't want to just like,
on the
do you
spot.
wrong.
I'm impressed. That was really nice.
Oh, I'm glad,
I'm
dude.
honored to be here, by the way. I'm so excited you're starting this. Like, this is awesome.
I know it's scary, but it's fun. We get to reconnect with old people and learn about what's going on, and I think you get a better perspective of like who people are as because we never talk about just like life in general. So I think
Yeah, and
it's
we haven't talked for like what, almost 2 years now?
yes. Okay,
Yes.
let's just like catch up. So
Okay. You go
all right.
first.
Oh man, should we just like start off with that story of you bouncing, or I
Yeah,
don't even know.
we can
All
start
right.
there if you
All
want.
right, let's start from where you first felt that you were gonna leave. Oh man, but then we should probably talk about let's just talk about how we first met and we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that. Let's
Yeah.
do
Okay.
that.
I would honestly, I was thinking about it because I feel like I've known you for so long. I was working there first, right? And then you
Yes.
came after me, I think.
I'll give you my thing. So I was
Okay.
a little just to give everyone perspective, this is my first year in the mortgage career. Worked at a direct lender. I'm not going to name the name here, but it was a smaller shop call center where we transitioned from being a customer service rep to a loan officer where we do purchases and refinances. Really good training program and experience overall there. Met Morgan there when I was completing my customer service training. I just saw her I think it was in the kitchen. I first
Okay.
ever saw you, and I just asked just like regular conversation, and then I think you introduced the idea that you were a loan officer, and then I just started trying to learn about what it was at the time. So you can kind of give some perspective of what the training program was for you, and then going into becoming a loan officer.
Yeah. So like you said, we met at that small lender. Well, to give you some background, I never wanted to be a loan officer. I didn't even know what a refinance was, to be honest with you. Like I had no idea. And I was working at SpaceX before then. So like crazy big technology company. And I was in finance and I was like hating working there. It was like there was no room for improvement. I was kind of pigeonholed into this one position. And so I went on Indeed one day and just like one clicked applied to every job because I knew someone that was a loan officer that was making six figures. So I filtered for a loan officer, one click applied to all of them, didn't even know what a refinance was, don't even know what a loan officer is. And then that company called me and they're like, hey, yeah, you don't qualify like to be a loan officer, but we'll get you started in our training program, like the one you did. So I was like, all right, like, let's do it. It can't be worse than what I'm doing now. So took a huge pay cut and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I basically begged them for the job. Like they didn't, the one girl that interviewed me quit and then no one called me back. So the head of HR, I'm calling him nonstop. I'm like, hey, get me the job. Like, I'm willing to do this. So then I started the training program that you're talking about. And I was like, what did I get myself into? Cold calling? Like it felt like we were cold calling people all day long, trying to get them over to a licensed loan officer. And they don't even know our company name. They're like, who is this random girl calling me, trying to get me to talk to someone that's licensed when I didn't even ask for a refinance? Like hung up, yelled on. You remember that, right? Like it was the trenches. It was not fun.
So I
Like
did I did one podcast with Jersey, and it was just so fun reflecting on it because like when you're going through it, it's like I don't know, like a boot camp jail slap slash thing, right? Like you just I don't know, I feel like I'm like closed off to the world at the time, like
that's a great way to put it. Like I just remember like tunnel vision, like because those first 3 months, you all day you're getting yelled at and you're just trying to hit the numbers, right? And you're just calling people. You're on the phone nonstop, and then you go home and then you study to try and like comprehend refinancing purchases and like. From me, I never owned a house. I didn't know what any of that was. So you're literally like in the trenches for 3 months. So that taught me how to handle rejection, like without crying. We were just straight cussed out all day. Like it was gonna be pretty bad. And
so
then you go home and study.
I didn't know that you didn't well you knew so you knew that you wanted to go into loan officer, right? A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I guess when my friend was making six figures and I was like, I'll give
Or
it
at
a
the
try.
time it was just like that's just one of the things you could go into, right? Because
Yeah, it was basically my mindset working at SpaceX was like, this company is so cool. And I worked here for 3 years, but I'm burnt out. I don't see a way to get promoted where I'm at. It was kind of like pigeonholed into this one position. And then I was so over it that I was willing to do anything that I thought could make me some money. And that person I knew was making six figures, and I knew that's what she was doing. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. Like,
wow, wouldn't you think that like from the outside looking in, like for me, I would be like, oh my god, like SpaceX, like I feel like it's small enough where you can grow. I guess well, you just have this perception of it, but that you can grow and it's like this like innovative thing. Like, what was your experience like there, and why? Yeah, if you really pursued it, do you think you could have ended up, you know, where you wanted to go? You know, had you stayed in it?
I think if I really wanted to, I probably eventually could have been in like a financial analyst role, but I saw firsthand what that was like and I did not want it. Like that did not sound fun to me. And it's such a high pressure environment. There's really no job security there because if it felt like if you mess up, you're out. You know what I mean? It was like very cutthroat. And it was such a cool experience learning everything from like a startup from the inside out, but there's not great like systems put in place. So a lot of times you're kind of scrambling. Everything is a race, like Elon wants what he wants, like when he wants
Do you
it.
really
And
feel
it's
that? Do you really feel
very
like that? Like he's very direct like that? Like you'll see emails from him of just like, hey, like we need to get
Yeah,
this
I mean,
done
it was
or
more company-wide emails because I was never in a position where I was dealing with him directly, like that's like executive level. But I sat in on executive meetings and like he took notes, and I started as an intern there. So I interned through school, through college, and I was working like full time while I was interning and going to college. And then finally I was like, I don't even want to like finish my degree because I see so much into this business world. Like I'm pretty much doing what people do, but I'm also going to school on the side. And they're like, we're not going to hire you full time if you don't have a degree. So I'm like, okay, I'll finish my degree. And then I got hired full time. And then that's when I kind of, as a full time position, they needed people in accounts payable, is what it was. And
okay.
because it's a startup and there wasn't like systems set in place, it was just a lot of pressure and a lot of scrambling and a lot of burnout and turnover. And I was like, I don't see this for myself. And you're capped your hourly, right? So there's no commission. And I was just
Oh,
like,
dude. How
I
much were you
just,
making if you don't mind me asking that?
no, I was making, I think, $23 per hour at accounts payable.
Okay.
As an
So
intern, I think I was at like $18 an hour.
Okay. And what was your goal at the time? Like, what was a good income for you? Like, what did you want to hit at the time? Like,
Honestly, I didn't even have a goal, Kenny. Like, I didn't grow up with a ton of money. Like, I know we've talked about this before. I didn't grow up with a ton of money, and I never really like saw myself having a ton of money till I started making it when we were in mortgages. You know
yeah.
what I
Well,
mean?
and we'll talk about that a lot. We'll go into that, but yeah, give me that kind of framework because I'm always interested in that. So, what was your kind of upbringing or like relationship to money, or like where, like for example, for me, right? Like my dad was a teacher making like 60, 70s, and he's supporting a family of five when I almost stay home. So I was like, oh, okay, I just need to make 60 to 70 or maybe a little bit more and I'll be living pretty good. So I knew
Yeah.
that I wanted to go into a career that at least paid that. That's why I went into PT because it was like 70, 80. So that
Hmm.
kind of framed me from the beginning. Like, did you see, like, were you, when you chose a career or major or position, was income a factor, or what things did you look for when you were getting into your career?
So when I went into SpaceX, so I'll back up before. I my parents had okay money, but I grew up in some place that I would compare it to Orange County. Like, you have a lot of money, right? Like, people in Orange County do. So it wasn't that I was like we were poor or anything, but it definitely felt that way at times because everyone else had so much more money.
Over in
Um,
OC or up there?
no, up here where
Okay,
I grew up, like near Sacramento, like this little
got it.
suburb that is similar to OC, like the money,
Mm.
the
Oh,
culture, and
yeah.
everything.
And we could
So,
talk. I want to talk about that. It's yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
so even if you're not poor, and like my dad made decent money, he made more than 60,000 a year, and at times he made more because he was an appraiser, he had his own business.
Oh, okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
but it didn't feel like it at times because, like, everyone else seemed like they had these, like, expendable incomes, and I'm over here at a young age, like, I knew that I didn't have that much money to spend for myself, like, so at 17, I became a hostess at a diner and then worked my way up as a waitress, and so I was working, like, 4 or 5 days a week in high school, like, paying for all my own stuff, like, you'd always walk away with cash, and that, to answer your question, like, kinda clicked. It was like, I don't know necessarily how much money I need, but I know that my own money equals freedom, and I love nothing more than that feeling. So I'm just gonna work and do as much as I can and get as many skills as I can and kind of like see where it takes me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you were aware of money from back then from working because some people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there that don't really even pay it as we know from our loan officer job. Like people just don't even look at their bank accounts or know what their incomes are or
Yeah.
nothing.
And
So
well, that is wild because I am so opposite of that, where I would budget out every dollar. I would save a certain amount, like from when the time I was 17. Like, I'm gonna buy a car and I'm gonna have it by this month. You know what I mean? I
oh
was
wow.
very opposite and it was like hyper independent. Like, my parents, and at that time they were going through a divorce too. So it was really easy for me to just be like, I don't have to ask you guys anything. If I'm making my own money, like, there's no control over me. So I'm gonna do my own thing and make sure I take care of myself. So very like hyper aware of money from a young age. And it leads to independence. And that's like all I wanted.
Oh, okay. When did you first so was that when you started working as a server is when you started thinking
Yeah.
about money and independence?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever start looking into like the FIRE movement or anything like that? Do you ever heard of that?
No, it's not.
Like financial independent, it's a big like subreddit on Reddit, or just this big community of people who are financially independent, retire early. That's what it stands for, FIRE.
Oh, no, I've
So it's
never heard of that acronym.
yeah, so it's a big thing of like if you find it on YouTube or like people who, especially in tech, they go into it like trying to make a bunch of money so they could just live off of whatever 70, 80, or 100K for, because they have so much in their investments. I don't know,
Yeah.
something you could look into, but
I'm intrigued.
I learned that from a while ago of that concept of like, because that's what gets you the freedom, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so fast forward a little bit. So where did you go to school and what did you get your major in?
So I went to a junior college first while I was still serving. So, because that's obviously way cheaper to do the 2 years there. And then I transferred to Long Beach and got a degree in business finance because I never wanted to be poor. I wanted to know how to manage my money or at least get the degree so I could get a good job
Hmm.
and have money. So that when I joined Cal State Long Beach, I got into a sorority, which is surprising because it just, I don't identify with it really, but I got into sorority. I became the director of finance because obviously money obsessed a little bit. And then that's how I networked and got the job at SpaceX. So
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I
yeah.
knew I knew that you did sorority because I knew that you always talked about your experience living with all the girls and, like, it was
That wasn't
fun.
even a sorority house. That was my normal house, Kenny.
Oh, wow. And yeah, so yeah, you wouldn't identify with, like, the pure sorority girl
No,
or whatever, right?
no. It was like every time I tell someone, they're like, "Really, you were in a sorority?" But it got me SpaceX, which got me really like ahead in my career. So I don't regret it. But it's definitely wasn't like the oh my gosh sorority till I die type of thing.
So, and going into when we were working, like, I viewed you as special because, like, you were the only woman that's, like, killing it, or just,
Mhm.
like, you in general were just in that position. There just wasn't many women in our job at all, and if they were, I think how many loan officers were there? Like, true loan officers, I think maybe on our team, we had, what, 3,
Maybe including me, right?
right,
Like
including you, but out of, like, I don't know, because people were coming and going, like, there just wasn't many, I feel, right?
no, I think when I started a little bit before you, when I got on the sales floor after training, I remember there were 2 girls, and within a month, they were gone, I think, of me starting. So,
So
it was just me.
what I was trying to get at was, like, when you were choosing the career of or choosing the major of business finance, was that ever a factor of, like, this is maybe more of, like, a more male-dominated type field? Like, what was your perspective on that?
I never thought about it, to be honest with you. I was just like tunnel vision of I'm going to make money and this is the piece of paper I need to make it. Like if you want to make money, why not get a degree in finance? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there were things that came up like being one of the only girls in some of like the harder business classes was obvious. And there was sometimes like harder to get taken seriously in those classes, but it never was like this. It was just more so like, okay, this is how it is, but that's not going to stop me at all. Like, I need this piece of paper and I'll do whatever I need to do to get this piece of paper.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's crazy. Because for me, I had that thinking going into the sales thing of, like, being Hispanic and, like, not
Mhm.
coming from money. I always felt this, like, "I'm not supposed to be here" kinda thing.
Yeah,
So and that was like a just or anything that has to do with money. I just feel like it's always like a uphill battle with that. So I wanted to see, but that's good. So you were kind of like naive to it, right? Or just like just whatever. Like I just
I think yeah, and I think it helped because I didn't grow up just getting everything that I wanted, you know what I mean? But and then I was working, just going back to high school, I was working full time when people were going to like football games all the time. So I was used to doing things that not everyone was doing, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, just being one of the only girls, that's just another thing I'm going to do. But I will say at where we used to work, it was a different story a little bit because it's way more intimidating going into a sales floor where it's all men. The main managers are men that have been there for years, and you're just the only girl there. Everyone's looking at you like fresh meat almost, you know what I mean? Like it's like where's my place going to be? Like are they going to accept me? I need help. I need resources. Like I need a coach who's going to be that for me. And then just like trying to find your place, it was a lot of pressure and it was really hard at times. Like that was the hardest. That was the most aware I've been of being a female in the industry.
yeah, that's yeah, because I was thinking like if I'm going through it and I'm like I'm a guy in it, like I can't imagine like what you were feeling like during all of that time.
Yeah,
So I just think it's like more you should be more commended for that too, like staying that long and like
thank you.
killing it for the way you did. But yeah, it's like that job, it you hear of these stories, right, of like the Wolf of Wall Streets of these like white men leader business people, like I don't know, I just never thought that it existed until I'm like, oh man, anything in the OC is like kind of like this, like
You didn't think
right?
it existed, and then we got that job, and we were like, "Oh, all this stuff does happen," like, to a certain degree. I mean, there's not, like, strippers everywhere, but
I
to a
know.
certain degree, like, all this stuff is happening, and I can see how it is happening because that's just been, like, the culture for so long, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to talk about okay. So when we first got into that, like I'll give you my kind of story because I don't think I ever really told you how I got in. So I
Mhm.
just applied for because I always wanted to buy a house. That was my thing, but I didn't get into the physical therapy assistant school that I applied for. So that's when I just went to Indeed, same thing, started typing in bachelor degree jobs anywhere. So yeah, of course they were the first ones who hit me back. Some British guy hit me back, you know.
Huh?
Uh,
Can we say his name?
yeah, I know, right? You can say it. Shout out.
Oh, I love him. I did
Yeah,
love
I know.
him.
One of the few good people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, interviewed and I love that. Like during the interview, he didn't tell me it was gonna be sales though. That's the only thing. But he's like, "Look, man, I really like your personality. Like, just you're gonna take this test. You just answer the questions like you were one of the people on Wolf of Wall Street, and then you'll get in." You
He
know,
told you that?
he told me to answer it. So like just like more because it's sales, so they want like a more aggressive personality, you know. So just answer that because they do a personality test. I don't know
Yeah.
if you did that. I don't know what that.
I I did not do that. And Tom, or he interviewed me, he talked the whole time. Like, he did not ask me one question, and I was like, This seems like too easy." Like,
Oh my gosh. But yeah, yeah, going in it, like how was that experience of doing like outbound calls and like feeling uncomfortable? Like how many times in the first couple weeks did you want to quit?
I wanted to quit every day. And then I kind of got comfortable being on the phones maybe 2 months in. And then I passed the test. And then we went to training with the CEO, and I wanted to quit again every day. And then we got released on the phones to be a loan officer, and I wanted to quit every day. Like, that job taught me such perseverance to be uncomfortable. Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. And I grew so much every single time I wanted to quit. And I stayed because I was like, no, think of the money. Like, think of the skills you're going to get. And I think it's such a good lesson. Like, you have to be uncomfortable or you're just never going to grow. I would have never thought I would be in sales. I would have never thought I would have had a job where people are cussing me out and I'm just getting on the phone the next day, like, hey, it's Morgan. You know what I mean? Like, it teaches you rejection and perseverance. And like, one call is one call and then it's over and you get right back on the next call. Like, I really wanted to quit all the time. Like, truly. And I'm so glad I didn't. Like, it was so worth it to be in that space of being uncomfortable. Like, I remember I would try and get my shifts done. I would start at 6 a.m. because no one was in the office to listen to me on the phone because I was just uncomfortable being on the phone. I didn't know how to handle objections or rejection, really. So I would start at 6 a.m. and then I would get all my calls, like, kind of like the awkward first calls out of the way, the first 2 hours. And then people would start coming in around 8 and I'd be warmed up and I'd be comfortable. And I just did that for a couple months, and it gets easier and easier the more you do it, like with anything. But for a long time, I was like, what did I do? Like, did I just make the biggest mistake? Because at SpaceX, yeah, it wasn't a lot of money, but I took like a 25% pay cut to get cussed out on the phone every day. Like, I was just in my head,
Wow.
like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, just straight, am I lost? Like, why did I
So
do this?
so there at the company we were working at, when did you first see that like the money was possible? Was it first when you transitioned over, or did you like hear stories from other people, or
There was one person on our team that'd been on our team for a long time, and he was like a total, just like, off the wall goofball. You probably know who I'm talking about, but he didn't have a college degree, always slacking off. And everyone would always talk about, like, he made 40 grand one year. Like, you know what I mean? He made
or
this
one
much. He
month,
made
right?
20
Yeah.
grand. Oh yeah, in one month. Yeah, 40 grand in one month. And I was like, if he so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see a check that big here. Like, I know it's possible. I've seen his check, so I'm just gonna keep doing this terrible, what seemed like hell for the first couple months.
It's just so crazy, right? Like what a piece of paper can get you through, right? Like of that motivation. Like because
Yeah.
I that same person, I talked to him before again was gonna quit, and then it's like I learned about who he is, and like it just made it more plausible. Like,
Yeah,
it's you can do it, which is changed the whole perspective of my whole life now. Cause like now I think like you could do anything, right? It's just a piece of paper and it's a number. Like you can get these incomes and like that we never I don't know that I wasn't like aware of before. Did that change your perspective about earning an income?
totally. Totally did. I never thought that I could really make money. I knew I wanted to, but I didn't know what money meant to me. Like, I know I wanted to be able to live and afford my own house one day or my own apartment comfortably instead of living with like five roommates and living in the closet for that house pretty much. Like, I knew I was willing to make sacrifices and it would be worth it. But once I saw him make money and then we started making money and I saw it, I was like, oh, like you said, anything is possible. Like if I can make this much money, it brings you a confidence like, oh, I literally did start from the ground up and I'm making this money. Like what else can I do? Like if I made it through all that and I'm making money, then I truly feel like I can pretty much do any job. And I know if I start at the bottom, then I will work my way up to the top and it will always be worth it.
Yeah, no, and I think something that put you above everyone else too was like your organization and your like I was just like amazed. Like you were so good with such the small little things, so that's what made it like more and more efficient. So I would remember just trying to steal every little thing I could from you because I felt that I was naturally good like on the phone, but anything with organization, I didn't realize the importance of that. So I thank you for that. You yeah.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about where you got that from, like being super organized and where you put that. Like why you think you got that trait?
That's a good question. I feel like I've always just been super organized. I don't know if that comes from like being the oldest, being a female. I know sometimes females are more details and organization. I've always been like that. But when I think I realized the importance of it coming to that job and realizing those little organizational tweaks that I had that no one else had could get me farther ahead. I might not be the best person on the, you know what I mean? Like I might not be the most persuasive, but if I have these little follow-up tweaks, these little organizational skills that I consistently do, that puts me years ahead of everyone else that's the best on the phone. So
Wow.
once I figured that out, I was like, "Oh, I can put this to use and it'll get me ahead."
Yeah, and that's what got you a manager role. How was the experience of being a manager, working your way up from being a little customer service rep and then going up to that?
Honestly, if a lot of it was timing, like I think that we got in at such a good time. I will always say a lot like we had hard work, but we got in at such a great time for the market to shift, to make that money, to have that
Yeah,
confidence. And then,
wait before you yeah, could you explain about what happened? Like give the timing and what
yeah.
so
Yeah,
people
that's
can get that?
a good call. Oh my gosh. So basically when we got in, I'm just going to say we got in at similar times. I think it was 2018. We got licensed. We started probably both being a loan officer on the floor sometime in 2019.
I
So
started in dude, my timing was the crazy January of 2020 is when I got my license.
okay, so you were way behind me then.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean a
But yeah,
year, but
either way, it's still very similar. But go ahead.
yeah. So 2019, the rates were like five, sixes, it was really slow. There were not a lot of salespeople on the floor. Like it was a pretty small company. Business was slow. And at that point, I was just soaking up every rejection I got, like trying desperately to get a loan because I'm out of training, trying to prove myself. But not a lot of people are refinancing or buying when the rates, aren't that great. So then 2019, the summer, the FHA rate started to go down a little bit. And then we specialized in a product and got super busy. And then 2020 happened with COVID and the rates, I think it was mid 2020, plummeted because there was like crazy going on in the world with COVID. And then the rates just dropped like crazy. So I don't know if you were even a loan officer at that point, but I remember in March 2020,
Yes,
we all had a meeting.
I was in
Were
those
you,
meetings, and we
you were
were
in that
thinking like,
meeting?
guys, just prep yourselves. Like we're gonna be, we might have to close shop. We want to try to keep
Yeah.
as many people as we can, but this might be the 2008. Because nobody knew what would happen, right?
Everyone was comparing it to 2008. Like and I remember trying to price out loans and it would change like within a minute, a percentage of what I could offer someone. So in real time, I'm on the phone. Oh, I could get you this. And then I refresh the page and that's completely gone. So it was just crazy. And then I remember having those meetings where we're new, we just got licensed, went through all of that work. And they're like,
And they're
yeah, we
like,
don't really know what's going to happen. Like, we don't know if we can keep you. They pretty much said, who knows what's going to happen here with all the rates. And then they leveled out really, really low. Like we're in the twos, the threes, and no one had seen those rates since they were doing terrible loans
never.
in 2008. You know what I mean? So yeah, it leveled out. And then it was like our phones ringing nonstop. Like I can't even remember that year because our life was like you wake up, you go to work, you talk to 15 people, you get almost all of them alone, and then you work on your admin stuff and you go home and you do it again. Like it was crazy. I can't even remember because it was just work, work, work. I talked to so many people every day and all of them were buying. Like all of them wanted to refinance. So we were making a ton of money. Crazy.
I think, yeah, at that time, if I had known that, and I know that our managers were always saying like, yeah, you need to like work more and like, because it's not gonna always be like this. I probably would have taken it more serious. But I feel like it's only so much that we could do as humans, right? Like I could take on like that was so tough, and I feel like during that time was the people who were quick on computers, and like we had our other friend who was really good, it was just fast.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who ate. Like,
You're just raking it in. And it really is like, it really was shooting fish in a barrel. Is that what they would always say?
yeah,
Like, I truly think that out of the 15 people I would talk to a day, I could get over half of them. And that's crazy in mortgage. Like,
crazy.
that's a crazy percentage because things
Yeah,
fall out, things don't work, people are still skeptical. But the amount of loans we were funding every month, and then we saw a paycheck for that every month. It was like right when you got burnt out, right when you're tired, right when you can't take another call, you see that paycheck and you're like, okay, I'm ready to do it all over again. Like, and that was our life for at least a year and a half, 2 years. Crazy.
oh my gosh. And I remember too, I was like, I couldn't take it. I think I had work like because I was again in when I was new on that team that we were on, I really was trying to not only work but trying to like be a good employee by making friends with like the managers and doing extra, which probably looking back, I don't know, it just took a lot out.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I almost quit and I would have like
Yeah.
changed.
Can you tell us the story of why you almost quit? Because I'm still not even sure if I got the full story.
No, I was just truly burnt out. And I was like the unhealthiest I had ever been. So I gained when I started at and I started when I started there, I was like 215 pounds. I got up to 250 pounds in a
You
span
were
of
15, 215, you got to 250?
250
Really?
in less than 1 year.
Mhm.
So, and I was just like, I think from that like when you're not healthy, like you're just in a bad space to begin with. And then also like my grandpa was like going through a lot of like medical stuff. He had a botched surgery. So I was just start thinking about life, and I'm like, dude, this is not worth it. Like I like seeing that he could almost like he's almost could be gone, and like I'm just like what when I'm like doing this with like I don't care how much money it is. And that's
Yeah.
one perspective that I learned from it of like sometimes it's not just money that's involved, right? There's other parts of your life that need to be met, like your health and your mental
Yeah.
health. But yeah, so I was mustering up I remember just watching YouTube videos on like how to quit, like because I I always wanted to quit every single day, right? We were the same thing as you, right? But you
Every
never
day.
do it.
Yep.
But I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I talked to my family and I'm like, they're like, yeah, like you don't look good, like, and I'm like, yeah, but I'd be like giving up this money. But I had some money saved up, obviously, because we were doing so well. So I'm like,
Mhm.
you know what, I could do it. Like, I'll take a month off and just try to find some, like, not even thinking about the future, which is so dumb of me. But that's where,
It's hard when you're in that, like, you're not
yes,
happy and you're miserable and it leaks into every other aspect of your life. You're like, I just have to do something drastic because I'm so overwhelmed that I don't know, like, if I'm ever gonna get
right.
out of it.
But realistically, like 2 days off could have like solved the issue, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember going into I was like, "Oh my god, I'm just gonna do it, just go rip the Band-Aid off," and I went to go talk to him, and this was, like, at the peak too, which were I don't know what I was thinking because I could have lost a
You're
bunch of
burned
money.
out.
But I
Yeah.
talked to him, and I remember my manager, he just broke down in tears and was, like, telling me, like, "You can't, like, trust me, you just gotta play this through, like, we'll do whatever it takes, like, to help you, you know, feel right, but, you know, you're gonna like, you're really good at you're really good at this, and you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna be regretting this decision when you look back." And I'm like, "Let me think about it." And so you know, I think he gave me a couple days off, and then I was still like, you know, I don't know where this guy's coming from. Like he's just trying to make money off me, so I don't care.
Yeah.
But when you hit me up, that changed everything. I'm like, because I know you were thinking about quitting too, and you're just like, because we're on the same team, and
Mhm.
that meant everything because it just put me into perspective of like, I could do this, you know, just like I just need to make some small adjustments, which I did, and then overall just took me to another level of doing even better. So that's what happened with me. But talk about your time of quitting and not enough spotlight on me. Okay, this is you're the
No.
guest here.
Well, I wanna go back to your point of it's just your health, and if I were to go back and do it because I was in the same boat as you a lot of the time, looking back on it after getting out of that environment, it was such a crazy time that we had to capitalize on, but I had no boundaries with work, and that's something that I would not do again. Like, work was my life, and I got all of my validation from doing well at work. It was a cycle that's really hard to jump off of, and as a result, like, my relationship suffered. So I think that's a big lesson to what you
Mm,
said. Like, I think you need to be really conscious, especially getting into a fast-paced job or when the time of the market comes. Like, you need to have routines in place to protect
yeah.
yourself, protect your relationship. When I got out of that job, it was really hard for me because all of my worth was on work. And that was like, it was like that for 3 years. I was excelling really quickly for 3 years, but all my whole life was work. So my relationships suffered, no hobbies outside of work. Like that's all I was doing. Like, and it wasn't healthy mentally or physically for me either. So I completely get your point, and I think that is something that's so important to any job is having boundaries. And every job I have now, like I will always go in with set boundaries because you have to take care of yourself or it's just you're gonna fizzle out so fast.
Yeah.
So
And that's
I
to give advice to everyone out there. Like we were making 30,000,
a month.
35, maybe 40, 20 consistently, and I didn't care, just wanted to quit. So that's everyone trying to chase that number. It's like there's just it's amazing. Don't like I like obviously we'd love to have those kind of months every single month, right?
Yeah.
Um but there's more. Yeah. There's other things that exactly. I think you're right. If we had been trained, imagine just someone else who stepped in like, "Okay, guys, make sure that you're doing your workout. You know, you got to go and you need rest." Like someone just to give us a little bit of like don't forget about other stuff. I think we would have
Yes.
thrived even more, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think in that environment, and I think this is true for most mortgages or sales, at least in my experience, but that market is like, the market is so good, you need to eat now. So you need to eat, breathe, and live mortgages because this isn't going to last forever. And then when the market's bad or not so good, it's you need to work twice as hard to make just as much as you were. So you need to eat, breathe, live mortgages, and this is your life. And it's like when the rates are good, you do it. When the rates are bad, when is there ever a time to just relax and pause and focus on what I even want? So I think if there would have been an environment to say, focus on your mental health, focus on your physical health, you don't need to be here for 12 hours a day. Like you're not going to be looked at as a slacker if you leave at 8 hours, then I think that would have really prolonged my career in mortgages. But it just wasn't like that. And that's
Yeah.
why I tried to quit a couple times. And I, just like you, and they convinced me to stay, which I'm so glad they did. And I don't regret it at all. Um, the main time I tried to quit was even before the rates took off. It was after training and the rates were bad and I was sitting on the phone like getting nothing and just getting yelled at all day. And I remember I went and got a job at a competitor, and then they took me into the room, who hired us, and our manager, and was like, "You're not quitting. You're going to be great at this. Like, just stick with it." And so I wrote a contract of, okay, if I stay here, I have this offer. I have this other company that believes in me. If I stay here, these are all the things that I want. And I got most of them.
Oh, you
And then,
did? I didn't know you did that.
yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you did
And
that.
I think, yeah, I think that's a good lesson in advocating for yourself too. I had two companies that both wanted me. One of them had already invested in me and spent the time to train in me, but they weren't letting the training wheels go. One of the things was like, I need to be on the floor 100% of the time. I don't want these overflow calls. I don't want to like take what people don't want. I want to be treated like a loan officer, just like everybody. I went through 4 months of training. Like,
Right.
take the training wheels off, let me prove myself, and that's, or I'm going to leave. And then they let me do that. So I think you really have to advocate for yourself too, and draw boundaries, I think, would be my biggest advice from working in that environment.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll give you some perspective of after you had left, right? Of what how it went down. Like I started learning a little bit more and more about the industry as a total. Like a lot of these banks and lenders that were they they didn't think about the future in mind, so it's just hire right now for, for it being good, try to make as much money as you can, squeeze as much juice with not thinking about keep having like a sustainable business. And so I started learning about the business model of the place that we were working at from talking to the other managers, and it
Hmm.
made sense. So it was a place where we learned really well. I mean, we got trained very well, but really it's just to, take as much as you can from the employees right there, because we were getting underpaid if you compare it to any other type of lender. We were
Yeah.
getting underpaid, so like let them last as long as they can, and then it's okay because it's a numbers game, volume. There's going to be more. The new trainees are coming. The people are replaceable. That's why there's not really a place to grow in that. So that's
Hmm.
what I started learning of that, and I'm like, oh my god, like I need to start thinking about what's the next thing, and so it's so funny. I mean, there was just a bunch of drama, obviously, and stuff that we
I
probably shouldn't get
know.
into. That's for the after hours pod. But
Yeah. That the things that happened there, I'll just say, I look back now and I am like, what, where were we? Like, it was crazy. Like, just the drama, the involvement. And, they would always say it's a family environment. And I liked that. I thought I liked that. And then the boundaries get crossed of just work life. Work is your life. So everything's just entangled in, like, your manager is kind of like your dad and your boss at the same time, but then you get in fights. Like, it was just very muddy. Like, I think you just need to keep a boundary of your work and your outside life to really have sustainable employees.
r- or just in general, like just for common sense, right? Like, come
Yeah.
on, like we just make work is work, right? Like
Work should be work. That was like one of the biggest lessons I learned. Work should be work, nothing else.
something so simple. Oh my god. Well, okay, look, here's what happened. So the rates started increasing, right? Business was getting a little slower, still not that bad. I had gotten another offer for this other place where me and my friend Justin, we both were transitioning to that new spot because we would get it's higher paying, guarantee. It's a in-house leads because they're a
Mhm.
big servicer. So and it was a much better place overall. So it was a really really good um, transition from moving to where we were. It's just the next step up, kind of like what you did. You learned and expanded more.
Yeah.
Um, but how funny it was the day that I went in to go quit for real this time. Um, I just see people with boxes everywhere. I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, and so I we go to lunch and there's like they told us that we had like a taco truck, right? So I went outside and we were all like talking. I'm trying to game plan like how I'm gonna do this. Like I'm scared again, and I just see like all of our friends 10 20 people 30 people coming out with boxes, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening? So turns out that they did massive layoffs on that day that I was gonna the day that I did end up quitting, but everyone just got laid off because, like I was telling you about, they hired too many people, too many processors, too many um, CSRs, so they cut maybe like I don't know 30% of the workforce there, and so it was easy because it was mayhem in there. People were crying. I'm just like, hey, I'm out too. I'm leaving.
Yeah, you got let off easy on that quitting. There's no one to keep you there. Everyone had already gone.
Right, and then we all like went to Golden Road after the brewery and just talking and like yeah about kind of like what we are talking about. It's just like not a sustainable thing, and
It's
but
not.
overall, I'd say I mean good experience, right? So
Yeah, I think it was a great experience. I learned so much in those 3 years, and I made so many, I wouldn't say like mistakes, but I would not handle going it now, knowing what I know and being a little bit older and more experienced, I would not have let a lot of things go that I let go. And that I think it comes with going back to your question about being a female. Specifically, I think there's a lot of pressure as a female coming into a sales floor with all men. There's a lot of pressure to just be cool and not ruffle any feathers because you don't want to be labeled like the one that's going to go to HR, the one that's going to ruin all the boys' fun and everything like that. So there's a lot of pressure to just be like, I'm going to be cool with these jokes, even though a lot of them like might not sit well with me. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them were really funny. Like there was a lot of fun times, but there are certain times where it's like I'm the only girl, and if I say something and call it out, it's going to make it awkward, and then they're going to be weird about me around me, and then I'm not going to get the help that I need.
yes, that's
So
the key. That was the key thing. Like same here too. Like you kind of had to we like suppressed our values and morals a little bit to
totally.
just try to like I don't know. You don't want to be seen as like the one that's like the rebel or opposing because we know what happens. Like if you like start being an
Well,
issue, like you'll just
yeah,
get kicked out. Like
we saw it happen. Like I remember one of the girls was a little bit like that, and she was gone like the second I got on the floor. Like it did not last long. So that right there sent a message of you need to fall in line and be on our team or you're not getting any help at all. And I was so determined, like I just went through 3 months of training like, and getting hung up on I'm gonna make this job work and I'm gonna make money. So I fell in the line of like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm gonna be cool with everything. Not to say that I wasn't cool with a lot of things, but it makes it really hard when you're already decided you're gonna be like that to then draw boundaries if something bothers you because you're not taken seriously and then you're looked at as like, well, I thought you were cool with that. And it's a lot of manipulation. So I think going back, it's important to like, don't lose your morals or your values. I 100% no amount of money is worth that. And looking back on it, I'm like, I'm so glad I made money, but I would do a lot of things differently.
I think, and from an outside perspective too, and just from seeing you, right? Because I saw you transition from just I saw you gaining your confidence and getting like just better at your job. That I think that what it was like you finally learned that you were strong enough that you didn't have to put up with this anymore. Like, and so I saw that transition, and I remember you like seeing in the parking lot a couple times, like breaking down because you're just like it's you were going through this like inner battle, right?
Yeah,
Of like of you know you could you run this whole thing better, which you can, but you dug yourself in such a hole of like trying to please people that like how are you gonna like they're not used to the new Morgan. They're used to like the old like let's yeah okay everything's okay
that is
right.
the best read ever. That's exactly what I was going through. It was so much people pleasing to get to where I am. And I learned so much, and that people pleasing was almost manipulation too, because I got you to help me. Like I needed help. I needed a coach, and I knew if I was cool, then I would get that help. But then, like, once my confidence grew and I was comfortable, you can't, it's so hard to fight back and stand up for yourself because people are like, no, that's not you. Like, you're cool with this. It doesn't bother you. And that's exactly what you said. It was this huge internal battle of I know I'm not getting treated right and I don't and I know I can do this job better, but is it worth like the constant like scrutiny that I'm under my manager, someone that should be my biggest cheerleader. So that's how you put it is exactly right. And that ultimately led to me being like, this is not a healthy environment for me anymore. I now have my morals and my values that I want to stick by. And I think I need to get out of here.
But that's kind of a good thing now reflecting. I mean, obviously it was so tough, right, for both of us. Like, well, it was good and bad, right? Money was good, but a lot of emotional and pain and growth there. But I think that a place like that really allows you to learn things very quickly. Like, I don't know, I would, and I feel like I use that to just take that to the next thing, and I have grown a lot. And I think you, it sounds like you have too with everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I the job that I have now, even though it's not making the money that we made in 2020 or 2021, like it's crazy. I've been striving for that, but I understand that that was a lot of timing. It's not necessarily that much money, but it's solely like they're focused on work-life balance. And when it comes 5 p.m., no one's texting me, no one's calling me. I'm clocked off. No one expects me to answer over the weekend. Like if I'm sending emails at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m., people are like, what are you doing? So I value that now more, my inner peace, my ability to be able to turn off work and not live for work. That I've taken that and that's what I want to go moving forward. I don't ever want to be so wrapped in that my worth is my work.
Yeah, well, give me. I don't have no idea what you're doing. So what did you end up going into now? Like, what's the position and
I
is it?
took it to medical sales. So still sales, but the company I work for is like a medical technology company. And they're really focused on women's health and creating products and technology that help detect like illnesses, cervical cancer, for example. So those are the products that I'm now selling to healthcare providers and doctors and physicians.
Whoa.
So I feel like it's more in line with my values. And the work life balance is great. I'm selling in person to doctors, which is just crazy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't,
talk about that. Like, what's that been from phones to real people now?
honestly, I didn't realize, Kenny, how much of a setback it is to sell over the phone. Like, it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, you have this wall of no one's, if they reject you, you just hang up and you call someone else. But you only have your voice and your tone and like the content of what you're saying over the phone. And you have to get someone hooked real quick. When you're in front of someone, it's a lot harder for them to just straight ignore you and just walk away. Like it's awkward, right? So like you have a lot of the time they kind of have to give you the time of day, especially if you're approachable and nice and think about it, doctors are probably not dealing with super happy people all day. So if I can come bring you some information, make your day a little bit better, bring the office lunch, spend a couple minutes with you, then I hope that I can make your day better in just a little part of your day that's not the worst part of your day. And that's the approach I take of selling
Okay.
them.
So is it like you're selling just to help? Is it like equipment and technology that helps with their like just daily use, or what? How
So
does it
for
work?
example, there is surgical, there's like breast and surgical like a division, but I'm in the diagnostics division. So the actual products I'm selling are like STI tests and like pap tests, so like to screen for cervical cancer for women.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Cause now it's like I think mortgages in itself has it's, like, kind of rewarding in its own way, you know, when you're paying off a bunch of debt or you're helping someone buy a house, which is really good, but
Yeah,
that, like, is really cool too. You're still stuck in a field where you're, like,
you're helping
doing
people.
doing good, you're helping people, right?
Yeah. And I think you always knew this about me, but if I didn't feel like I was helping someone with a loan, like I would get a pit and I wouldn't do it. I could not like a pit in my stomach. I couldn't do it. So I truly need to believe in what I'm doing. I can't be like one of those people like, oh, it's fine, they'll make it back in the long run. Like I really want to feel like I'm doing good. It's really important for me to be looked at as a good person, that I'm helping people, and this aligns with that goal of mine.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you see yourself just going all in with this career for the foreseeable future? Or are you still open to, like, growth and other things in the future?
The latter. I think leaving every job you leave, at least in my perspective, it makes it easier to be open to other jobs. Like leaving SpaceX was the hardest thing. And then in double, tripled, quadrupled my income. And then I left that and I was actually at peace and happy. So each move has been a gain for sure. So I don't know. I'm so new to this job. I feel like maybe in a year I'll be like comfortable with it and really good at it. But then what's next? I'm kind of not in the point where I necessarily want to be in management. Like that used to be like management and maybe become a VP. That's not what I see for myself right now, maybe in the long run. But I think every job that I take has just made me a more well-rounded employee, but person overall too. So I am so open to doing a couple different careers in my life. It doesn't even have to be sales, but I think every job that I've take has just added skills to my basket. So what else can I do after this job? You don't have to be tied down.
I love that perspective. And speak on that to people who like think that they have to either choose their major or choose their career that's like they have to figure it out on that one move. Speak on that from experience of like that, or just give any person advice of that, of like the perspective of that, it's not, that's not the thing, that's not the only thing that they have to do.
No, and I don't know if it makes anyone feel better, but I used to dread people asking, like, what do you want to do? What's your passion? I have no idea. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Why should I figure that out at 18? Like, I don't know. I don't have the skills or experience to pick one thing and stick with it. So if you can go to college, get a degree, any degree. Like you don't have to go into debt. As like I put myself through school. You can work as a waitress. It's fine. Like it's not the best job, but it'll get you through it. Pick any degree, get the piece of paper, and then just start trying out jobs. I think for me, a mistake I made was I stayed at SpaceX too long because I was like so prestigious, like such a great company. To have this on my resume, but I was so miserable. So I wish I would have left earlier and taken literally any other job, just start trying things. And then once you get all those skills, every job you can get a skill from, and then you'll be able to market yourself and you'll start building into those higher paying jobs. You do not have to stay at one place and you don't have to go into a career where you got your degree. Like you just don't need to do that anymore. There's a study recently that came out that says the people that switch jobs more consistently, I think it was like every 2 or 3 years, make way more money in the long run than those people that slowly climb their way up at one company. So now it's
Wow.
being looked at as better to shop around, to go and get experiences at other companies. You're actually going to make yourself more money than if you stay at one company and just feel pigeonholed there.
I think that's such good perspective. I think from experience too, and not when you just don't know how the hiring process works, right? Because like you're scared, like if you're not gonna find another job, but like once you start getting more and more experience, like you just become naturally more marketable, and you just learn the system a little bit better, right? So I think you just
Yeah,
get the confidence to
you
keep
get
transitioning.
confidence.
Because like
I
I
think
feel that
that's
way
it.
too, like I feel like really limitless now. Like I can go wherever. Like I don't have. I used to have that perspective of like, oh no, you need to work your way up at just one spot. But like, no, that's good perspective. You don't have to.
Yeah. And once you do it, once you leave the job, like once you're successful at a job, like you got a promotion or whatever, you're good at it, you leave another job and you work your way up and you're good at it. Like that just gives you so much confidence. You're like, oh, I can do anything. Like it's not, a death sentence to end this job. Like I can quit this job and I can maybe start at the bottom a little bit, but I have the skills now to work my way up and market myself. Like I can do this all over again if I wanted to.
Yeah. No, I love that. Dude, I can't believe it's already an hour. Like I feel like we still haven't even like scratched the
I
surface. I still need to talk and catch up with you more. But
I know.
I wanna do these last three questions. So we ask
Okay.
everybody, all right? So what is your version of success?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Got you there, huh? You like that? That's good.
You warned me about this one. I think my version of success is I think I'm always helping people. Like my number one has always been helping people. Like what I'm doing every day at my job is making the world better, making the community better, and making me better. So I think success is having a job where I can be helping people and making a difference. I also think it's not necessarily tied to money. I think it's tied to achievement for me. So I want to, being successful means I can achieve my goals and keep going from there. So it's not, it used to be tied to money and dollar sign for me. And I think I've grown to get out of that. For me to feel successful, I want to be helping people and I want to be achieving my goals and continuing to set higher goals.
Okay. Wait, sorry. That just brought up another question then. What
Yeah.
is like one of your like major goals that you're trying to accomplish?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like an interesting question, actually, because I feel like I'm in a bit of a transition period since I got out of mortgages and just finding like what I like and what I don't like. I think one of my major goals would be I want to own a house. I don't own a house at this point, and I feel like that's a little bit tied to fiscally, but I want to eventually have a routine where I'm like running, maybe not necessarily a nonprofit, but I want to be able to
Oh,
do something outside of work, outside of myself, that is purely just to give back of everything that I learned.
I
And
see.
you inspire me a lot because you started doing that. And I was like, oh, I need to get with it. Kenny's like out here doing it. That's inspiring. I want to get involved
Oh,
sooner.
no, well, I'll give you we'll talk after on like what all you need to do and how to anyone can start a nonprofit or get involved with it. And honestly, it's one of the best experiences that I've ever had of doing it, especially cuz yeah, like you forget that these people are struggling and like, and so it's good just to build your worldview, I think
Yeah.
is really
And I
important.
think that transition period, feeling a little bit lost, I was feeling a little bit after I got into this new job or before. It's like you're so focused on yourself all the time. I think the best way to get out of that funk is to focus on other people or something that you can give
Yes.
back. It doesn't always need to be so much about yourself. And it's hard because
Yes.
everyone does it, right? Especially you're making money. You're
Oh,
like,
that's a
yeah,
good
I'm
point. That's
successful.
a really good point. Like even positively and negatively, right? If you're thinking too much about yourself in general, I think is unhealthy. So that's exactly
Yeah.
right. So that's why I'm starting this podcast and doing the nonprofit. It's just to help just get out of my own self. So I think yeah, that's one thing what I'm doing. Okay, next question. That was a long one. All right, and you kind of already answered this too a little bit, but this might a lot of people have trouble answering this one. But what impact would you like to make in the world? Like, and I know you said it's not you don't have a definite thing right now, but like, what's one thing that's kind of like maybe like itching at you, or like that you would like to do? Is it like more of like the giving your experience to others, or is there anything else?
Yeah, I think mainly it would be if I can some in some way give back what I've learned or maybe help someone get that confidence that doesn't have it, it that's would be a win for me. And I think that's
Ooh.
something that would make me feel great selfishly, but also like help other people see that you can do it. You don't have to go to this fancy school. You don't have to do all this stuff to make money. You can
Mm,
work at a diner as you put yourself through junior college and make just as much money as this person going to USC or UCLA or Stanford.
I love
So
that. I
if there's, yeah, any way that I could help with that and give that confidence to people, then I would love to do that.
nice, amazing answer. It's like you had a note card ready to go.
I
Uh,
didn't. You didn't even tell me about that question, actually.
I know, right? I wanted to put some curveballs.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Last one. All right. What kind of advice would you give your 18-year-old self? Ooh, another good one, huh?
Yeah, that was a good one. You're telling the ones I'm not prepared for. Um, this is actually kind of an easy one. Like, you're not living to work. Like, your sole purpose and your identity does not need to be defined by how well you're doing at work, what you're doing for work, how much money you have in the bank. Like, I think it's so crucial to have a separate sense of self and confidence that's not tied to your external factors at work. And for me, it took so long to realize that, to be comfortable with myself outside of work. So you don't have to live to work. Like you should be working and having those boundaries and enjoying your life outside of work. Like not everything needs to revolve around work and you can still be successful at work doing that.
Yeah. No, yeah, great answers. So anything else you want to just send off on, or like what, any
I
last
mean,
words?
we covered a lot of ground here, Kenny.
Dude, we got a lot of ground. I think a lot of people, yeah. Well, we did
I
a lot of catching up. I think we're probably gonna need a part two later on to see where
Yeah.
you're at, and what's going on with your nonprofit stuff now, which I'm hoping you'll
Well, I hope
volunteer.
that you can help me out with, because I think saying that's been in my that's been in my mind for a long time of like wanting to do more, but and especially seeing you like when you started, I don't even know what you were doing, like reaching out and doing these lectures on finance and everything. I was like, wow, this is I need to be doing more. Like Kenny's doing it. So you're inspiring. So thank you
Ah,
for pushing me.
that's amazing. Well, thank you, Morgan, and thank you for coming on. I think everyone's gonna love this one.